Hello, this is Peter Fusaro, co-founder of the Wall Street Green Digital and founder of the Wall Street Green Summit. We're happy that you can join us today. You're probably wondering why we would continue to do this event for 23 years. Well, we're trying to accelerate knowledge capital globally, build community. I have a call option on young people because they will inherit this world. And now is the time to lead, scale, and commercialize climate tech. This is a $215 trillion market opportunity, according to Bloomberg New Energy Finance. Last year, only 1.7 trillion was deployed, so we have a long way to grow. I look at this as the trinity of energy, food, and water that need to change into more sustainable pathways. So now is the time. As my wife says, don't quit before the miracle. This is a digital event that's going to cover many topics with 35 speakers. We're going to have climate disclosures, or now financial disclosures, a deep dive into hydrogen, many speakers talking about biochar, which is becoming very topical this year, nature-based solutions, the relationship of climate tech and clean energy, carbon insurance, new ideas in managing climate risk, and much more. These include distributed energy assets from my friend down under in Australia, decarbonization strategies, several speakers on solar energy, climate risk and equity markets using AI, climate bonds, we'll have Sean Kidney speak about that, carbon footprinting, ESG, environmental social governance, and many deep tech solutions. I think it's important also, because it's becoming very topical, that nuclear power is making a comeback. We're seeing the rise of nuclear power due to data centers and AI. In the United States, we have 94 conventional nuclear plants. The latest new plant cost $35 billion in Georgia. It was twice as expensive as estimated. So we're starting to see SMRs, small modular reactors, which may be the way forward. These plants are 50 to 300 megawatts. Today, however, there are only two such plants in existence, one in China and one in Russia. We will not get into the debate of nuclear power and carbon credits, although the industry feels that they are entitled to carbon credits by not polluting. Solar has also made a breakthrough worldwide. We've seen in the last 15 years cost reductions of over 90%, higher efficiencies of panels, global deployment, both in the global north and global south, and technological breakthroughs such as double-sided panels, nanotechnology, and building integrated photovoltaics, which will be the next wave of solar as it is integrated into the skin of buildings. For example, in New York City, we have 950,000 buildings. I don't foresee much solar on rooftops, but solar built into the buildings. And solar is creating a massive number of jobs. In the United States, over 270,000 jobs have been created in solar. And this doesn't require a college degree. This requires installation and modularization. And we're seeing a tremendous uptick in number of solar businesses, over 10,000. It's an established business with California as the leader, followed by Texas and Florida. So we're seeing a lot of movement in solar power, and several of our speakers will talk about global opportunities in solar power. The bad news is we're starting to see the extreme and more unpredictable weather events. Storms are becoming more intense, as we've seen in the last 2 weeks in Florida and the Southeast with Helene and Milton. Droughts and flooding. Forest fires continue to increase. We're losing species every day. We're seeing sea level rise, ocean currents changing, perhaps more rise because of glaciers breaking off in Antarctica and the Arctic. fish catch is declining. And the outlier that no one wants to talk about, the correlation of infectious disease and climate change. Disease that was eradicated up to 1990s, such as the hantavirus and diphtheria, have now come back due to waterborne and insect-borne scourges. So we're starting to see tremendous reaction to the climate and infectious disease. Here's an interesting chart showing you that we're looking at the daily global CO2, which is now 424 parts per million. That's a straight line going up. Many of us believe that when we hit 450 parts per million, that will be 2 degrees C in temperature rise. Right now, it's a runaway train. If you look at the chart, it continues to go up, and we have not really had the opportunity to really make a dent in this curve. Atmospheric concentrations of CO2e, CO2 equivalent, are 39 billion metric tons a year. And if we did not have oceans and forests, it would be 52 billion metric tons. The largest emitters are China at 11.7 billion, the United States at 5.2 billion, the EU at 3.3 billion, India at 3.3 billion, and Russia at 2 billion. So we're looking at large emitters of CO2, mostly from fossil energy, the combustion of hydrocarbons. Being more specific, energy is 73% of greenhouse gases. That's a very big number. And the energy transition is just getting started to move forward to reduce emissions, use new technology. Agriculture is 12% of greenhouse gas emissions. Industrial processes are 5.9%, waste is 3.3%, and land use is 2.5%. Energy is the big deal globally. We need to move off fossil fuels and move to clean energy, energy efficiency, and other applications, perhaps nuclear energy getting more traction. We're also seeing challenges to financial institutions. There's a lot of financial uncertainty on decarbonization efforts. Lack of useful data is making problems for decision making, and data sets are not uniform, but they are getting better due to the more rapid use of AI. There's also a lack of investable products for climate alignment. As I mentioned before, total deployment last year was $1.7 trillion, according to Bloomberg New Energy Finance. The need is $5, $6, $7 trillion a year. We need to scale and commercialize more technologies. The better news is we have hundreds of climate tech funds. 18 have closed this year alone. Several have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, such as Chevron Tech Ventures, ETG, Clean Energy Ventures. But there are hundreds of smaller funds, and others are raising capital to reach that deployment needed for climate technology to start ameliorating climate change deleterious effects. The startup world for climate is also accelerating throughout the world. In the United States, there are 78,000 startups. They're not all for climate, but some are. And in India, there's 66,000 startups. So we're starting to see a new wave of more technology coming. Many of these companies will fail, but some will succeed and scale. And there will be many unicorns. Unicorns are $1 billion climate companies. And these hubs are throughout the world, from the Northeast in the United States to Houston, to the West Coast, to Singapore, to the Middle East, to Berlin, Frankfurt, London, Paris, and also in Latin America. We're starting to see these climate hubs emerge and grow. Another area that's getting a lot of attention is carbon accounting. You have to measure what you're polluting. And this includes corporates and private equity portfolio companies. There are several software solutions to track and disclose emissions data accurately. Data is becoming king. You need to measure and monitor what you're polluting. So we're starting to see the inclusion of climate data with company financial data. In the United States, in a year and a half, the SEC has mandated some of this disclosure. We're also seeing the movement from Excel spreadsheets to much more comprehensive AI solutions. So companies need to collect and manage their ESG data for financial disclosure. A lot of movement in this area. So I'd like to say that this is the end of the beginning. The media is focused on climate change due to New York Climate Week 5 years ago. Then Columbia University had 30 news organizations message climate. We now see climate 24/7 around the world as newsworthy. It's more important to see who's going to inherit this world, the earth. It's the next generation. So you're going to learn in the next 12 hours the experience of 35 experts during this climate tech marathon. So we want you to learn, enjoy, and network. And we're very happy that you could join us today.